The heart of every story. That's what I want to talk about today. But this is my furry friend. This is Jackson, our blue healer. Thought I might take the opportunity to introduce him. I will have to banish him now in order for me to continue. I'll be right back. The heart of every story. That's what I want to speak about today, and this is the fourth video in a little four-part series I've been doing on how your biggest problem is your greatest opportunity, something that I have come to believe, and pretty ferociously, I'd say. It's how I've been living my life for the last 15 years, and in many ways it's become more or less my life message, I feel like. I've detailed in the first few videos how that paradigm shift came to be in my life and how my life began to change pretty radically. I also explored a few things, one particular being the rewards that there are to be gained from problems and how history makers are problem solvers. And so today, this is the third reason that I am persuaded that your biggest problem is your greatest opportunity. And that is that the heart of every story is a problem. Before I jump in anymore though, just want to welcome you. I'm pretty new to YouTube. This is my channel, brand new, Thrival now. And the whole premise of what I want to impart is that you can go from survival to thrival, and whatever areas of your life that you might be facing, that you might be surviving in, you can thrive. You can thrive in relationships, health, and wealth. And I trust that this place will be a place to fuel your story and be challenged and encouraged on your journey. I come from a storytelling family. My father was definitely the best storyteller that I ever knew until I met my husband. And sadly, my father passed away before he met my husband. But my husband is pretty equal to, if not surpassed in skill for telling stories even to my own dad. And so I grew up in a pretty competitive environment to learn to tell stories. And I have always loved stories. They have fascinated me from a very, very young age. And some of my favorite moments were sitting at my dad's feet at different parties and family get-togethers, listening to him tell stories. And the joke was often, as we got older, that I could tell his stories better than he could. And I don't believe that was ever probably true, but I tried. I tried to make his stories my own, and I love to tell stories as well. So storytelling, I guess, in that sense, is something I connect to. But when I began to search out this idea being that your biggest problem is your greatest opportunity, and I want to detail that I never heard anyone else use that phrase. I've heard many other great phrases about overcoming, but that was the phrase that I created to cement the learning in my own mind and the power that I needed to fuel my own transformation. And so that was a question that I began to ask myself in difficult moments. And it was a question that I began to ask other people, or a statement I would make, turn it into a question. How can this problem be my greatest opportunity? And asking that for other people. But what I have discovered through the years is that the best stories are the ones where someone almost died. Hands down, there is daring and danger and harrowing quests in the great stories. You could pick your favorite fiction or nonfiction story, whether it's an old family favorite, your own kind of oral tradition in your family, or if it's a blockbuster movie on the silver screen or the best-selling novel. There is something woven into these stories that it is the most basic element of storytelling, and it is very, very simple math. Hero overcomes something, hero or heroine, overcomes something to achieve victory or transformation. If you step back from that for a moment, the very basic plot of stories and how problems are woven into that, in the sense that that hero or heroine has to overcome something. And I consider that the heart of it all, which is The heart of every story is the problem that someone has to overcome. But if you step back from all that, I want you to think for a moment, I shared a little bit for a moment about how stories, the deep connection I have to stories in my family. But in general, you will find stories connect us in the most basic level with each other. They bind us. We fill the spaces of our lives, it seems, with basically food, drink, and stories. At the core of all communication is storytelling. Even the worst of it, which is gossip, is telling stories that you shouldn't be telling about other people, that can be really juicy and they're very attractive, and we want to hear those stories, but they're not ours to tell, and they can do damage to someone else's reputation. But even the negative side of it is fueled by storytelling. We find our place in the world by telling stories. We determine our relationships with other people by the stories that are told. And most importantly, it's through the stories we tell ourselves and other people, and the stories that we listen to, that determine the course of our lives. So let me say that again. It's the stories we tell ourselves about our life and what's happened, and the stories we tell other people, because we're speaking that out of our heart. We're speaking those stories of our existence and meaning of our life out of our own mouth, and the stories that we listen to, which essentially impact our thinking and our belief systems. Those are the ones that are going to determine the course of your life, and have determined the course of your life up to this very moment. So where you are in time, I'm going to daringly say, is a summation of all the stories you've told yourself, other people have told you about who you are, what you've come from, the stories you've listened to around you, everyone else tell those stories. But if you want to go, if you want to end up on a different path, if you want a different finish in life, you want to leave a different legacy, or leave your mark on the world and become a history maker like I hope to be, then you have to be very cautious about the stories you're listening to, and cautious about the stories you're telling yourself, because you're giving meaning to your own story in those moments. So back to this idea that stories have very basic elements. You have the hero, opposition, and transformation. I mean, it's pretty well 1 + 1 = 2. That's what happens. But the key in all of it is that you have to overcome adversity. There is some battle that has to be won, and there is usually the key is that the adversity, let me say it this way. The key to it all is that in overcoming whatever that challenge is, there's generally only 3 different types of adversity the hero or heroine faces. It is adversity of an enemy, adversity in the natural world, or adversity of overcoming their own fears or limiting beliefs, or something very internal that they have to overcome. And a simple study of history, as I kind of tried to give you an understanding of in my last video, a simple study of history makers is that people who have left their mark on the world and left a legacy overcame often great tragedy, horrible circumstances, and great obstacles to become the person they are remembered for. So when you think of your favorite story of all time, or the best ones you've ever watched or listened to or read, if you boil it all out, the bigger the battle, the longer the fight, the greater the odds. The richer the ending, the better the story, and the sweeter the victory. I love stories. And I've discovered there is many other reasons, or at least one other reason they are so powerful. Basic psychology, well, I don't even know if it would fall under psychology. It would probably fall under some neuroscience. It would fall under neuroscience. So there has been some amazing research in recent years on the power of storytelling and the brain. And when we are told a story, a powerful story, there is an incredible chemical cocktail that is of happy hormones that are dumped on the brain. Our brain is washed in this hormone bath of excitement and joy and fulfillment. It is powerful. We connect to stories. It is in our DNA. We're totally wired for stories, for telling stories and listening to stories. And at the heart of every story is someone overcoming the odds. The fact is, I have fueled my life based on stories. There's something I call bookmarking the future. And what I discovered early on in some of my experience as an outdoor educator and wilderness guide, that the best stories are the ones where someone almost died. And what I realized was in the difficult places, when things got really hard, when we were cold, wet, hungry, miserable, and the situations looked very hopeless just in the natural world and in the circumstances that we were facing, I began to realize that if I could bookmark the future of telling the story of what we were going through, it could pull me through that difficult situation. And so that was a strategy that I began to use in a lot of arenas of life. Long after I left the mountains and I stopped guiding and doing outdoor work, I consistently made it a habit of bookmarking the future, especially when things were difficult. And I would do that by telling myself the story that I would tell one day and use that as fuel to get me through. I used that key when I was 23, and I ended up having a huge health battle. I had a rash that covered my body. I lost most of my hair, half of it one morning pretty well in the shower. And as things deteriorated, it wasn't bald is beautiful. It was just nasty, peel your hair off at the peel your hair off at the scalp like it might never grow back again because you've just ripped out the roots. That kind of, or the roots have come out with the hair. That kind of nasty situation. And everyone around me was having a joyful, happy life. I didn't know any other people my age struggling with that kind of adversity. And it was so bad that I could not even be really in public. And so I went and I hid it out in the mountains. I worked on a ranch in northern Alberta. Wonderful family made a place for me and gave me some great work. And I spent that winter working on radically changing my lifestyle and digging into healthy living, what it took to live healthy. And I ended up defying doctors. I'll detail that other story in another, maybe at another time. But, doctors had told me this was a disease I would live with for the rest of my life. And I refused to accept that diagnosis. And it was definitely a battle for a year. And I even dealt with some other ramifications of that battle for a ripple effect for a few more years. But to this day, you would never know that I had totally lost my hair or had a rash that covered my body and fought against that. But in that moment, in those difficult places when I was hiding from other people and I couldn't bear to even be seen, I didn't even know about wigs, but I wore hats everywhere and I battled total shame. I just remember thinking that, what if this is the best thing that happened to me? Fighting this battle now, as big as it is maybe a better battle than what I might be fighting at 40 or 50 years old if I didn't make a change in my life. And I began to bookmark the future of how could I use this story one day? How can I, maybe one day I'll get to tell this story to other people and it will help them and encourage them and change other lives. And I would imagine myself in the future using the story after I'd overcome that situation to not only propel me through that moment, but to, as hope, to fuel other people's stories. And so I'm no stranger to adversity. I have struggled with it in my own way, and I can detail many other accounts, and I've given little tidbits already. But at the heart of it, I want you to understand that whatever you're facing, big or small, there is an opportunity in your problems. And you can transform, you can take that problem that you're facing and make it not just a step, but a springboard into something great. You were made for more in every way. You were made to thrive. I was made to thrive. And we were made to thrive in every area of life. Health, wealth, relationships, you name it. And so if there is an area of your life you're not thriving, this is the place for you. I am going to be here daily posting videos, and my desire is to encourage you, to challenge you, and to fuel your story so that you can leave a legacy and live a meaningful life. I'll see you again soon. Thank you.